No, I'm joking.
Everybody, Stephen Maxwell here. Let me know if y'all can hear. Please comment. Let me know. Alexandria Mayor Jacques Roy set to have a news briefing here in just a moment, set to start at 11 o'clock. Let me know, comment if you can hear me. All right, everybody, we are going to start here in just a bit. Stay tuned. It's set to start at 11 o'clock.
Yeah. Hey.
Everybody, Steve Maxwell here. We're getting set for the mayoral briefing set to start at 11 o'clock. So stay here with us on Cenla Update Live, brought to you by Hahn Roofing. Feel free to comment. It'll pop up on the screen there. Always be respectful. If y'all have any audio issues, please let me know. But everything should be good. We have a microphone set up on the podium there, and I have mine as well. So sometimes when there's a bunch of microphones in the same building, it can get kind of complicated. But the room is filling up here. Several of the officials from his administration are here. City Councilman Chuck Fowler. And this is Alexandria Mayoral Briefing with Alexandria Mayor Jacques Roy. This is set to be on homelessness and crime. So stick around. He should be here any moment.
No.
And thank you all for watching Cenla Update Live, brought to you by Hahn Roofing. We're set to have Alexandria Mayor Jacques Roy there at the podium here in just a moment for his mayoral briefing to talk about homelessness and crime in the city. And he is walking in right now along with Alexandria Police Chief Chad Grimion. So we are going to get set here in just a second.
Chad out there, and we'll give you a count, okay? Make sure you're all working on.
Darren, you ready? You guys ready?
We both in the room with some kind of homelessness group. Raise your hand if you don't mind, or if it's something you care about, it would be involved. You want to sit on the floor, do anything. And y'all give me your hand before you leave. Something I know. The obvious folks, but this, y'all can help me if somebody has an interest.
Right.
Want to talk about it, it's hard to talk to somebody about it. Just give me your hand to problem, not full of detail.
All right, good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone at home. Chief Chad Grimion here. I'm going to start off the briefing today. The mayor's notice of mayor's briefing here, and the first thing up is going to be public safety report, and then we'll go into some other things. So thank you all for joining us, and thank you all at home for joining us as well. In 2021, prior to this administration, there were 34 homicides. Last year, we had 12. As of June 25th, which was yesterday, we have not had a gun-related homicide since December the 12th of 2020. I'm sorry, 2025. I want to reiterate that one more time. As of June 25th, we have not had a gun-related homicide in the city of Alexandria since December the 12th of last year. The mayor has pushed very strong for us to have a gun policy and an aggressive policy on gun violence, and the math simply does not lie. I'm going to talk about a couple things regarding some stats. Shootings since 2021 have decreased 48%, and I'm sorry, let me back up. Shootings since 2023 have decreased 48%, and homicides have decreased 52% since 2023. When you bring that out even more, and we annualize that from last year, you take that back from the number I gave in 2021, we see an annualized average decrease of 68%. From 2021 to 2026, we annualize that, we see a 68% decrease in homicides. When we talk about shootings, as I've said, a 48% decrease since 2023, and our homicides, again, a 52% decrease since 2023. When we look at property crimes, we are seeing per month a 28% decrease in overall property crimes here in Alexandria. Our aggravated burglaries are down 75%. Our vehicular burglaries are down 33%. Our burglaries of an inhabited dwelling are down 47%. Our unauthorized entries are down 36%, and our felony thefts are down 5%. I think what you see here is a complete decrease in the crime and the work that our Alexandria police officers have done every day. I am grateful for the work they've done. I'm grateful for the commanders, our detective division, our patrol officers, all of our dispatchers, and everyone that has attributed to this. This has been an effort that we've been working on since day one, and I think the results are starting to pay off. We do recognize that one homicide is one too many, and certainly I recognize that, and the officers recognize that as well. But those numbers speak for themselves, and again, the math does not lie.
Chief, are those cherry picked numbers, or are those the index crimes that you would list for the FBI?
These are index crimes that are pulled straight from our reports, from the reports that are submitted every day into our record management system. I don't know how you would cherry pick this, or these are numbers that are reported every day to the LIBORs and NIBORs indexing reporting.
What is LIBORs and NIBORs?
LIBORs is a Louisiana reporting indexing system, and NIBORs is our national FBI. They replaced the UCR report years ago.
So if someone asked the FBI for information, it comes from that raw data?
It would come from this raw data right here that we pulled out of our reporting system that my officers put in every day.
And what would be the consequence of your officers reporting false data, or you certifying or allowing that data?
It's a felony. It's injuring public records, and that's a felony under Louisiana law.
Not something you're interested in.
Not something that I would tolerate at all.
I'm just curious.
No. Everything is showing to be down. Look, I haven't looked at every single crime index. These are the major crime indexes that I pull out. These are the crimes that are reported, as I said, through LIBORs and NIBORs. And, the smallest decrease we're seeing is felony theft, which is 5%.
So, Mr. Lloyd, it's so hard when you get in stats this deep. One misstatement can ruin nation make. So I believe that the last numbers I looked at, which are the ones he's looking at through yesterday. So burglary of an inhabited dwelling was way down. What was that percent again, Chief?
Burglary of inhabited dwelling was 47%.
I think burglaries, I think there's another version, not of an inhabited dwelling, that had either flat or some increase from last year, but from our beginning of this administration is nonetheless down. So you can see how you got to be careful when you do it. But I think the index we use as the major one is inhabited dwelling. That's the one that obviously somebody's in the dwelling, right? You can have a burglary of an uninhabited area or whatever and still be intending to rob, take something, steal, et cetera, but there's no one there. So he's listed that one. That's what I would say. But if you look at it over the period of the administration, which is our fair look back over our time, it will still show.
And this look back is through 2022 to the completion of our year last year, December 31st of 2025. And again, in 2026, we're continuing to see a decrease. We have some business owners in here, and I'm sure that they would tell you that they feel it. I talk to business owners every day, and they tell me they not only do they see it, but they feel it as well. These things aren't always reported out there, but I'm here today to tell you, as part of the council and the citizens at home, just what we look like. And when you look at this, we've done well. We know we have room to work, and I pledge and continue, as I took an oath on day one, that I would do, and we will continue to work to bring these down even more, the best we can. Let me say this too, because we are seeing an increase in recruiting. The culture at APD has changed. The mindset has changed. We are turning leaders out. Our promotional process has changed. And for the first time in many years, we are seeing an increase in that. I'm not ready to give that number. We started an academy July the 27th, but I can tell.
What is it today? If it happened today,
I can tell you that we saw an academy with 0 APD in there. We have a strong possibility to have double-digit numbers in the academy.
So
I'm not ready to release that number, but I will tell you that we have an opportunity to have double digits. Now, let me say this, we have backgrounds that we go through. We will never lower our hiring standards, but I appreciate the men and women of APD changing the culture and believing and buying off in a leadership model and a process that has turned our department around. We have been given every resource available from Mayor Roy and from the city council approving the budgets that has equipped us like this department has never equipped. When we got here, we were 4.5 years without getting a vehicle. We turned that around and put 52 vehicles out quickly. 4.5 years with 0.
Our hiring standards since we came in much harder.
They are much harder, and
yet 0 to double digits.
that's right. And there are times where Sergeant Bankston, our recruiter, brings some things to me. We discuss it, and it doesn't pass. And we're not going to lower those standards because it's not fair, not only to the public, but it's not fair to the men and women that have gone through a background process and who work every day to protect and serve with honesty and integrity. And I will not lower those standards for anyone to come to work.
What's the hardest obstacle for an officer? What are you seeing as the hardest catch or net that stops an officer from getting on board?
Drug use, drug use, and then goes to a psychological exam. But those go hand in hand, and they reflect. We've seen instances where it shows the pattern that they fail at, and you look at the background, it goes hand in hand, and it shows a reason why we should not hire those individuals. So
we agree that the psychometric test and the matrix is the hardest to get through.
It is the number. It washes them out and fails them out of the hiring process more than anything. But we're not going to lower that. We're going to keep that. We've maintained that since we've got here. We'll continue.
Use of marijuana alone. Does the police force recognize any different?
Yeah.
I won't say relaxation. Culturally, things have changed. The percentage of young men and women who may have used marijuana in the past may be very different from 10, 20,
Yeah.
30
So-
years ago. Do you recognize some change in leniency?
There are changes. There's been states that have changed the law. We've had people apply from other states where, marijuana drug use has been legalized, or medicinal marijuana has been legalized and whatnot. We look at all that, we take that into consideration, and we evaluate it, and we make a determination on that. But it has changed culturally. It has changed, and we have recognized that. I'm not saying we've lowered that. I'm saying we've looked at it, and culturally, we've got online with other municipalities, with other state agencies that hire law enforcement, and we've all recognized that. So what it was 5 years ago is not the same thing today.
If a young man had a remote use of marijuana and admitted it truthfully, passed all other tests, was declared fit for service in the psychometric testing, and with that one admission, and it was remote, so let's call it 2 years plus, would that alone knock that candidate out?
It would not, and we would consider them for employment.
And that isn't an exact hard rule, I just
That
question, I'm
right.
just trying to give to the
Right.
crowd some flavor or example of we're
Sure.
not wanting people not to apply because they have a remote single use. What we want people to do is be truthful on everything you're asked when you apply.
So again, there's a lie detector test that cadets go through, applicants go through, and when you compare all those things to a psychometric test and whatnot, you put all that together, you either see that the applicant is not suited for employment, or you see that the applicant is. Yesterday, I released a statement on social media, and not everybody was able to see that statement. So I want to read it today. The Alexandria Police Department remains deeply committed to ensuring safety, health, and quality of life for every resident in our city. To achieve this, we must confront the challenging realities facing our community with both clarity and a commitment to real solutions. Recent incidents have exposed a reality that many have been unwilling to confront. The challenges surrounding our homeless population are not merely housing issues. They have become public safety issues, public health issues, and quality of life issues. For many years, I've seen direct evidence that our city is receiving more than its fair share of challenges surrounding homelessness and unhoused populations. I include a personal witness of other communities dropping off their most challenged population in downtown Alexandria. And I further include preliminary intelligence that I've been given indicating a widespread patient brokering and/or dumping of addiction challenged patients right here in Alexandria. And finally, I've seen evidence of human trafficking and out-of-state transferring of at-risk populations to Alexandria. The hard truth is this: compassion without accountability is not compassion at all. Giving cash to people struggling with addiction at an intersection, tolerating criminal behavior, ignoring open drug use, and accepting individuals living indefinitely on the streets is not helping anyone. Instead, it perpetuates addiction, mental illness, victimization, and difficulties for our community. It helps those vulnerable individuals trapped in a cycle of misery while placing an increasing burden on law-abiding citizens. The Alexandria Police Department recognizes that most unhoused and homeless individuals are not criminals. However, the people of Alexandria should reject the notion that experiencing displacement or lacking a permanent residence excuses criminal conduct. It does not. Every individual is responsible for their actions. Poverty is not a license to steal. Addiction is not a license to victimize others. Being homeless is not a shield from accountability. The Alexandria Police Department will continue to enforce the law aggressively, protect our neighborhoods, and pursue offenders whenever they are found. However, law enforcement cannot solve a problem that society continues to subsidize, excuse, and normalize. We cannot arrest our way out of a culture that rewards dysfunction and punishes accountability. If we are serious about solving this problem, we must stop enabling destructive behavior and start demanding real solutions, treatment, intervention, accountability, and a path towards self-sufficiency. Anything less is not compassion. I appreciate our traditional media for publishing this yesterday. We published this, as I said, on social media, and some non-traditional outlets seem to write their own narrative. Perhaps maybe this could be for clicks or shares, which monetize their business. This is what was published, this is what was read, and this is what what we release. What we need is for everyone to buy in to a uniform policy that we've been trying to push for nearly 3 years. Mayor Roy will discuss more of that whenever he addresses some of the issues that he's outlined today. Just as of note, there were some issues. Today we cleaned up some encampments. And I think it's important for me to hit on a few things that need to be talked about. This is not the first encampment that we've cleaned up. This just happens to be the first one that people are talking about. 6 months ago, the Department of Public Works, along with many other departments throughout the city, this is not one department throughout the city that does this. This takes many departments to work and accomplish this. We picked up many truckloads from the green space walking area of Bayou Rapids that follows that bayou. There was an encampment there that we looked at that I deemed was a public safety and a public health issue. Let me repeat this. There was a area just like today on Casson Street, which I visually inspected with my own eyes, that was a public safety and public health crisis. I directed this after seeing this. I worked with Public Works several months ago, approximately 6 months ago, to clean this area up, just like we worked today to clean this area up. This is not something that we thought about last week. This is something, or yesterday, this is something that we've been working on. My officers did notify them about a month ago that we would be cleaning this up. However, the weather came in and pushed us back several weeks. We notified them last week, and I personally went out there this past week and notified them that we would be cleaning them up. When I asked the residents how many were there, and when I visually inspected, I saw 5 camps in that area. Not 8, not 10, not 15, but 5. It's a small population. I spoke to the Homeless Coalition about this earlier this week. We know who those people are. We knew who those people were or are. They have worked with the Homeless Coalition in the past. But Bart, there are things that these people need to do in order to get into transitional housing. We cannot take these people, nor can the Homeless Coalition take these people and just put them into transitional housing. There are other things that must be done for these individuals to get into this housing. This housing does exist, and this housing is available. Let me say again, there are other things that non-governmental organizations provide to them. However, it is incumbent and important for them to get in there and for them to take it upon themselves to seek out these resources and work with others to get in there. This is not just an Alexandria Police Department issue. This is not an Alexandria Fire Department issue, which we'll talk about in just a little bit as well. This is a societal issue that we must attack together. And as I said, we need for everyone to buy into this uniform policy that we've been trying to push for about 3 years to make this happen. As I pledged to Ms. Wynn at the Homeless Coalition, and as I'll say to everybody here, on April the 6th of 2023, when I took this job, going all the way back to 1995 when I first got into law enforcement, I took an oath to protect and serve. I will never waver from that oath. I will protect and serve along with every other officer that works for the city of Alexandria and the Alexandria Police Department to continue to do this. This is more than the homelessness that it is portrayed to be. And let me bring this out to you. For months now, just in the Casson Street, at least twice, we have had issues that have occurred there involving the electrical system there. Those electrical panels provide lighting for I-49, all of I-49, which we as a city must maintain. We've agreed to that with the state. The state puts the interstate through. We come in, we provide public safety there, which is enforcement, which is working the crashes that occur, stalled vehicles, lighting, litter pickup, what for. The city has spent over $5,000 at least twice, not including over 40 man hours in replacing wiring and voltage boxes that have been damaged and stolen to that. That's a public safety issue. People can die if you don't know. If you grab a hot wire, it will electrocute you. This is also a public health issue. When you walk there and you see feces, the smell of urine, needles, which I personally saw, rotting food, and to the quote of the own people in that area, the trash. There is an enormous amount of trash, and we'll have a number later of how many tonnage that we picked up, of how much trash we picked up. These aren't household items, which the city picks up as well, but the personal belongings are very few. This is a huge amount of trash that is in this area. This trash goes all out and through our community. There is a drainage canal right behind this that it has the potential of blocking up. We just saw enormous drainage issues. It had an enormous flood, and fortunately, we clean out our drainage, Operation Clean Out 2.0, which the city has done for the last 3 years, that we've cleaned out a lot of drainage. That is a huge component of this. So this just isn't about one camp. This isn't about one issue. This is a huge issue that we have seen in our city for quite some time. I will end on, I am liking the way that our crime is going. I am liking at a lot of things that are happening for the good at the Alexandria Police Department. I am proud to be here and committed to continuing to serve at the highest level of public safety that we can. We have a lot of things that we have force multiplied in our city. The latest and greatest technologies that we have, not only to keep our officers safe, but to provide real-time immediate safety for our citizens. That is cutting. And I believe in what we're doing. I believe in what is right. I've always stood for what is right. This community knows that. And we will continue in providing at the highest level of public safety that we can. And with that, Mayor, I'll yield to you.
Thank you. Step here a little bit in case I have some other questions.
Sure.
I know you have a matter that you may have to attend to, and we can split up anything with the media that we need to. First, I want to thank you and your leadership at the police force
I appreciate it.
for what is happening. I think it is noted. In this day and age, we all have to, every word can be seized upon in a way that when we're just talking, people don't mean it. There's been a lot of talk about you or I saying that there's no crime and things like that. I'm categorical. I've never said that. That would be an insane statement to make. Of course, we know there is crime, and we're even careful about how we say what trends are, but the numbers are what they are.
I assure you, conservative.
The numbers are what they are.
They
and
are.
those trend lines are, so if you're in private business and you have double-digit trend lines for the better or for the worse, depending on where you want it, if they're double digits, and if they're more than 11, 12, 13%, if you're above 20%, those are what we would call materiality in anything. So if you're hitting above 50% in change for the better on something, those are massively important things to point out. Doesn't mean it's the end to something. It means that targeted interventions are working, and that those targeted interventions you have to continue to do to make sure that you continue a good trend, but also they inform you. You learn things along the way that maybe you need to tweak something on those or change what it's doing to get an even better result. I also know that anytime the city may speak to something, so I didn't read a ton of comments, but I read enough to know on the APD site that after you made your statement, there are those who are rightfully, morally, faith-driven to be concerned about corporal acts of mercy and what people who work in the homelessness and unhoused populations want to see happen to help people who many times it's not just dual diagnosis anymore. It's beyond that. There's so many problems that they have beginning to access things. So when you give the strong public safety side, people can hear only that and maybe not catch some of the other nuance. It's normal. That's not a criticism. That's how we are as humans. And I appreciated at the end what you were saying about that it's a bunch of different things. And just to summarize, there's a public safety issue, crime issue. And we know that unhoused folks and those who are homeless through different reasons are not all criminals. Everyone knows that. We even know that sometimes they do have criminal behavior that's driven from the circumstances of starving, being on drugs, and needing to support a habit. There's a whole continuum, right, of that. But there is a public safety component. And if people are unsafe because of it, like hospital access, other things, and if there's a concentration of people allowed, or even a health concern that turns to public safety, we have to watch for that. So let me give you an example. So public safety, obvious. Someone stabs someone accessing a hospital, that's public safety. But public health can lead to that. So you have an encampment that gets out of control. There's defecation and all kind of things that happen there. And it gets really way more than maybe all of you in the room know. Some of you may know, because some of you in this room go and visit encampments. And so you know how bad it gets. But what you may not know is somebody who is practicing their corporal act of mercy, and with all the good intention that a person can have, may regularly go to an encampment and give things, food and other necessities. And what they may never realize, but those of you in the industry who do this know, is that can make that encampment attractive for what? A takeover by people who are nefarious and don't have that in mind. And they will go and take advantage of those people all the way up to and including trafficking and human trafficking, the resources that may go to that encampment. These are complicated issues. As I was discussing with Ann Lowry yesterday, these issues are not just multifactorial, they're so multidimensional, all the things that go in it, to pull one string and think you would ever resolve it. That's not how it works. So public safety, public health. So public health can include disease models and other things that, while you wouldn't ever think of arresting your way out, when I first came in, I did execute an executive order for part of the MacArthur Drive part because it was so out of control. There was a dentist's office. This is where people go for health care, where regular defecation on their front porch, taking over of all their bathrooms, leaving needles in the dentist's office, all right next to the Baptist building, if you need a reference point, was happening daily. Leaving needles, leaving other things that can, it was rough. And I went and saw it myself. And so no one is saying the people doing that, think about where you have to be in life to do that. It's very easy to be at home and go, that's terrible. Chief, arrest those, get them out. I understand that. I understand there are people that feel that way. But I just ask everybody to think, where do you have to be here to be there? And so we're not going to solve it as you ended by arresting our way out. I appreciate that. But we also can't not deal with it because it's also affecting quality of life. So I want y'all to hear what the chief said. That's his words. I know there's always this tendency to think that whatever he says, I'm saying, whatever I'm saying, that's not how we work in my administration. We have a different type of relationship. We do a practice called null setting, or we may take a policy we all work on together, and then we assign a group to take the opposite side of it and see how it stands up. And I'm going to take you through that exercise in a minute on homelessness, because I want you to see how we look at it. But if I had to summarize what he just said, I'd look at it in these three components: public safety, public health, and quality of life. The third one he said, I want to touch on that. So public safety, you have a crime component. Chad, the chief, and I are seeing an uptick in the level of seriousness of crime committed by unhoused and homeless. Let me say it again. We are seeing a significant uptick in the quality, meaning not just quantity, more of it, not a number, quantity, quality, the nature and level of crime being committed in the unhoused and homeless communities, we can show you specific data.
Can I comment on that?
Absolutely.
So I think that's very important. As I said, we have not had as of yesterday, we have not had a gun-related homicide since December the 12th, 2025. But what we have had this year, of the 4 homicides, 2 of those have been directly related to homelessness. That's 50%.
50%
That's
of homicide. So no gun related.
Math.
That's what we were battling when we came in. That was the thing. Guns were so out of control. I'm not talking about Second Amendment issues. I'm not talking about your right to have, I'm talking about people killing people for nothing, for beefing over nothing. So we had to go after that. But you just heard your chief tell you that of the homicides, and it's looking way better than last year or the year before that or the year before, 50% are direct homeless. There's a debate on the third of it, but on the other one, but I would just tell you 50% homicide, homeless or unhoused people in that kind of a situation, that tells you that there's a qualitative difference happening. I'm going to say it's not just homicides, it's in other things.
okay.
So a stabbing on hospital access, that's qualitatively different. That's not a count for us where we go, okay, that's just one. That's, those people are, where are you most vulnerable? In a parking garage, when you're seeking medical help? I mean, there's 3 or 4 different vulnerabilities that happen there that we can't have happen. And I get it. People, well, I'm going to blame the hospital. They need to beef up security. Well, security in America doesn't have the same rights as, oh, well, then they need to hire only police. Well, then we got those things. It's complex, ladies and gentlemen. There's not a one solution fits all. I'm coming to that. I know why you guys are here. We're going to get there. Public safety, public health. So I was leaving off on the public health, the encampments. Encampments could seem to some people, as mayor and chief, leave them alone. They're in the woods. It's on public property. Public property is not being used. They're not bothering anyone. Not true. In one area of an encampment, they are somehow going in a local apartment complex and just leaving tons of needles in that laundry in that apartment complex. Now imagine if you're a mom or you're living in an apartment and you're dealing with sticks from a needle. I'm not saying it's happened. I'm saying these are indirect or direct consequences of encampment that people don't think about, but we have to think about. There's also an idea that the mayor is telling him which encampments to go. That's not true. Here's what I'll own. I did issue an executive order about that side of MacArthur, and it was working. And there's been a lot of comments about it. It's sliding back. There's no secret about the Siegel Select and how I felt about what happens there. They've done better. We'll see. It waxes and wanes, and I'm not picking on them, but they choose that model and I don't like it. And there's no secret about it. But I can't have a dentist's office or every food place there having people breaking into the bathrooms who I know they're invitees and they can say they have a right to go in and I'm going to buy something. Maybe I get all that, but that's not what's happening. They're destroying the bathroom. So there has to be something we do. So that's a public health issue is how we declared it that can lead to a public safety issue, right? They intertwine right off the bat. Now, quality of life.
Can I clarify?
Yeah.
I just want to clarify this because I just wrote it down.
You say whatever you want, Chief. It's your show.
Sir, the 4 of the 2 homicides were in the homeless community. It's homelessness on homelessness, not homelessness attacking someone in the homeless community. So it's important to clarify that those 2 homicides related to homelessness were within the homeless community.
So we make a clarification, and I know how you mean it, but someone could take it like, so you're saying it's less if a homeless person or an unhoused person attacked a citizen who's productive or have a job. I know that's not what we're saying. We're warning y'all to see this distinction. We're saying in the homeless and unhoused community, they're hurting each other way more seriously, qualitatively than before, and quantitatively more often. And there's a shift in that, and there's a bunch of reasons for it. And that's not for today. We can keep talking and get into that. But I just want you to see that distinction. Obviously, a homeless person now attacking a person seeking medical help brings up the second thing that the chief was alluding to. And so some of you, if you're cynical, go, oh, well, that's what got y'all's attention. No, that's not what gets your attention. That's what gets our attention. That's what gets your attention. We're dealing with this every day. I go to encampments. No encampment I've been to, by the way, has been ordered for destruction. Not one I visit. Just a stat. Doesn't have to mean anything, but it does tend to take away that idea that the mayor's going and telling you which ones to do. I didn't go to the one they've dismantled. The one I've been to, Rick, you're aware from some economic development side. Chad and I went to the chief and I went to it together. I'm sorry if I slip and call him Chad. We go back in this and on a number of levels.
What we did.
We went to an encampment and we walked in. I went by myself first. It was pretty organized, the encampment. It looked like a little city. I don't want to say where, because you're going to all go there and look at it, because it is interesting. It's built up. There's use of raw and natural material to build up a little town, a little fort, if you will. And it has walkways and the tents are organized. It was really amazing to see how much went into it. But like we were nodding at earlier, that can then attract a different element to go take it, which leads to violence, which leads to a public safety issue, which they talk to us about. So I went in, visited. I wasn't sure how I wanted to handle it. I wasn't sure if I would say it needed to be dismantled. I will tell you that I witnessed a throwaway of drugs when I walked up. I saw a toss, and I walked over, and out the corner of my eye, I saw what it was, and it was on a fire that was burning, and the fire was burning in a dangerous way. But I was not at the time. Some of you may say this was wrong with me. I was not at the time thinking about the arrest for the drugs. I was thinking about, what about this whole encampment? What do we need to be thinking through here? But I did feel at that point, not unsafe, but that I wanted the chief's eyes on it. So, if this was me and my wife, she didn't walk up to the deal. She was waiting in the car, but that was not the way to do it. So I left, and I had Chad pick me up, and we both went out, and we spent a long time with these guys. There were two, and a third, a girlfriend showed up to one of the guys in there, and they told us a lot. There was a lot of intel gathered there, where they're from. And I just can't tell y'all how many times we confirm so many people here who are homeless or unhoused are not Alexandrians. And so many people are dropped off here from other places, including locally, including organized to be dropped off in our community, and happy to let us have to do all the dealing and the talking, right? And then some are outside our community, bused here by their communities on purpose. Some are human trafficked. We're working on percentages for y'all. This is very hard. We have to do a lot of analysis with our partners to do that. It's tough. But how is quality of life affected? Well, if your business has defecation on your dentist front porch, that's a problem. If your bathrooms can't be used by people in a medical environment that's clean, a clean environment, because the bathrooms are wrecked with needles everywhere, that's a problem. If you own and invested your life's savings into your first restaurant to try to make it in a world of competing retail that is not easy, and it's being destroyed, that's not fair either to quality of life. We're going to have to balance these things. The chief and I took a helicopter flight during the height of the storm. When we saw Alexandria was going to avoid this last one, or we felt reasonably confident that we weren't going to be in the heart of it, like unfortunately our cousins, friends, and family in Avoyelles and elsewhere happened. We took that as an opportunity, though, because we get so much water above us and elsewhere to watch. We had cleaned everything to be ready. We wanted to see where things were. And we hadn't done it in a little while, so the chief arranged for us to get a Huey to pick us up. Doors open, you're strapped in, you get to look around, take the pictures, and we flew Trey, the chaplain, and all of our normal water diversion bodies that we want to see. And I will just tell you that over by the encampment, one of the encampments that's at the top of the city by Rapides, where you could imagine there can be a linkage to things that happen at the hospital. What do you think we saw from the air in some of the spots where it would drain and go out of the city, or at least go into the large diversion bodies to take it out? What do you think we saw? A bunch of trash. And we deal with it, and it wasn't enough to block anything for that, thankfully, but you could see where that could be a problem. You also from there get to see the encampments. You're looking at drainage, but you get to see, and there's just a ton of trash. So I do go personally, he goes personally. Just because we walk into an encampment doesn't mean it's targeted the next day. In fact, we told those guys, I'll tell you exactly what we said. They said, "Are you going to come tear this out?" They didn't know who we were. I told him he was the chief. He never said I was the mayor. But when the girlfriend showed up, so the two guys didn't know, they were from Avoyelles. When the girl showed up, she knew who I was and told them. So then they had a different conversation. They wanted to know about a whole bunch of other things. We spent some time. They asked if we would tear it out. I told them that I couldn't guarantee that either way, that there's a lot here that bothers us. And there's a private owner who wants this off his land. We did not yet know about the needles in the laundromat right next door. That changes things. But I told them to be prepared, that this was not going to be they were not going to get to just stay here forever. And they said, well, I think it was on a Friday.
Yes, sir.
And they said, well, do we have till Monday? I said, we're not coming Monday, but get your life reordered until then. Very calm, very nice conversation, no threat. We haven't been to tear it out, and that's been a while. So you could criticize me and say, well, why didn't you go do it? You have different priorities, guys. And what I saw there was not yet taken over by someone else. What I saw there were clearly people who are drug addicts who lied to me over and over about how they hadn't used in 7 months. And I'm looking at it in the fire, and I can see you twitching, and I can see your pupils, and you're definitely on drugs right now. I knew that. But that's not the end of, that's not the end of the analysis there. They did not present to me as that has to be gone tomorrow, as maybe other things that these guys are seeing. Okay? So ... we'll come back. But I go look at encampments, and I don't go look at an encampment and order it be destroyed the next day. Because like all of you, I do believe in the corporal act of mercy. In trying to balance that from a law enforcement side, and what Kitty and these guys do every day, and what some of you in this room either do voluntarily or want to do more of voluntarily or think about all the time because it's who you are and what is on your heart or your conscience, I get that. But there's got to be some balance. And so when we talk about a unified approach, let me tell you what we're saying, so we're totally transparent. And let me put at ease you guys that you didn't walk into some kind of set up today of this is how. I know the chief, y'all may be having some tough conversations. And I know you guys sometimes feel isolated out on an island, like, well, we're out here doing this, and what are we all supposed to do? And that is absolutely part of the problem. And it's everywhere in every community. There's an isolation that occurs because of a lack of coordination. And even if you know it needs to be coordinated better, it doesn't always solve it just because you know it. People mean well, and people will go out and try to help you, and sometimes they're doing the wrong thing. For example, on a small level, giving people money at an interchange on an interstate may seem smart. It's just not. It's almost never smart. In fact, I'd go, I'm not a universal use guy. I don't like to say never or always, but it's pretty much always not a good thing to give people money at an interchange at the interstate. Can I tell you not to give someone a bottle of water or a hamburger or something? We can talk about that and what it leads to, and the bad behavior and the competition and other things that can lead to. But giving people money is almost never the thing to do. Almost. I won't say always, but almost.
And I want to publicly thank Ms. Nguyen for the time she spent with me, our last few conversations. I appreciate the work you do, more than you know. My officers appreciate the work that you do. We together, as I said, together, we have to come up with a solution and work together to try and do this. It's not easy. I know it's not easy. And it's not just you that is tasked with this. It's a societal issue, as I told you when we talked, and I'm committed to working with you to try to put this plan together and bring it to fruition, and so we can all work together to have a better Alexandria.
So to the homelessness and unhoused population helpers, I told you earlier some of the, I don't want to use a fancy term. We call it null setting, but I guess it's, you take the opposite hypothesis. You take the opposite theory of a thing. So if everybody's developing the public safety side, you have to take an opposite view. And here's how we do that. When we look at and have looked at these issues, and it goes back a couple of years when we developed the first sort of whiteboard plan on it, we went through a whole lot of stuff. Signage. So a lot of cities put, do not give money here, leads, you know, all of those things are obvious. There was a case that came out. The Supreme Court, when I first came back this time, decided a case called Grants Pass. The U.S. Supreme Court decided it. And in Grants Pass, the U.S. Supreme Court said, no surprise, pretty conservative court, that encampments could be just willy-nilly taken out, right? Yet, even though that Constitution, is that fair, Daniel, or?
It's that the communities you can't necessarily, the ruling before that was that you have to be able to provide shelter, that shelter spaces in the community, around the community, to accommodate people before you were going to remove encampments or.
For those, hold on, stop, because you're not going to get picked up. Attorney Smith is saying before grants passed, generally speaking, before a city or municipality could have a policy to remove encampment, it needed to have some sort of mitigation of that decision where it provided alternative housing, especially in public space, to those persons who would be dislocated by that policy. Okay.
So the Supreme Court said that you didn't have to have that.
So the Supreme Court in Grants Pass said you don't have to have that beforehand. So like the Supreme Court can do, it can give you a ruling where it leaves a whole lot of still unanswered questions. And that is on purpose by the U.S. Supreme Court, and it always has been. So since Grants Pass, there's obviously been a lot more authority. But I think you'll see by what we just explained about the encampments we've personally gone to and what we do, that we have not gone off and said, okay, end everything. And here's why. By the same executive orders that looked at MacArthur, I also, Kitty, have things in place. So whenever we look at any policy making, and as we look at this, we have to look at it through this, what we call our null set lens. And it is 8 points. Here they are. And I've said this before in here at a briefing. Probably wasn't called as easily because it wasn't about this. You're all here looking, it's about this. But here are 8 points. Number 1, mental illness. Is this policy going to unfairly affect, impinge upon, or make worse, exacerbate, negatively aggravate mental illness issues? Or is this policy going to help us make that better? That's 1. Number 2, related, drug addiction. Number 3, water. And number 4, food. So basic corporal acts of mercy. Does this policy, in addition to looking at it through the 1 and 2, mental illness and drug addiction, does this policy deny people the basics? Does it unfairly impinge on it? Does it in any way answer or mitigate that problem? Number 5, electricity. Number 6, sanitary facility. Number 7, rest and sleeping. In addition to drugs, Tony's laughing because we remember going over this. In addition to drugs and all those issues, a person denied of sleep for 3 or 4 days might as well be on the most serious drug in the world. Your brain is not equipped to do that. You go past that, you're on drugs and you're having all these other stressors. Can you imagine the state of mind? So rest and sleeping. And 8 is what we call our humanity catch, which is just overall in the totality of looking at this, how is what does this say about us as humanity, this policy? So understand that 8 set we go through before we would do anything, which is perhaps why it takes a long time to think through all of it. Here are the other things we talked about. At the time, Kitty, you had reported about 22 homeless encampments. This has been a few years now. Some of these numbers change. There's a bunch of state laws that change that make it easier to do things. We haven't necessarily used all of those for the same reasons I just explained. We didn't jump at grants pass either. I did set up the executive order in certain places. It's designed to be translatable to other places as we prepare. We do think that the interstate and thoroughfares of a major nature need to not be blocked by panhandling. We're going to talk about that more. The partnering part is about a public education campaign, which while we've had fits and starts with it, it has not taken off. But today we hope in earnest it's going to lead to a forced conversation. We want to make sure our charitables get the problem. That sometimes the charitables, as we've outlined and what you intend here and here, can translate into a worse policy. It's not because people are stupid. It's not because they're mean. It's because it's just so easy to repair an act of corporal mercy with giving the act and then not realizing that that person walked off into the encampment and got beat up and everything stolen from them because you didn't know, don't do it there. You just didn't know. You're innocent of that knowledge. You never intended that. And so we have to think about how we can help you as a community be better equipped. Nothing was about blaming the community. It's about how do we all work together better to figure out some of that. This is a big one. Dismantling any networking in human trafficking, defensive architecture, et cetera. That's on us. We accept that one. To the extent we know of definite human trafficking components, they need to be dismantled. But even remember that. You're dismantling the human trafficking part, but the person who's the victim of the human trafficking is still that same person we've been outlining with all those multiple diagnoses and problems. They're being used by the trafficking system. So while you may dismantle the trafficking part, that's all they were. That's their only lifeline to getting anything was to participate in it. It's very complicated. I know you guys know this. I'm not trying to be know-it-all or preachy. I'm just reminding everybody that every keyboard warrior has the answer that they can pop off on Facebook real quick. Except we've thought of that one, but there's 6 problems after that you're not listing that we have to work through. Citations in policing. So you give a criminal ticket to a person who's got the problems that we've spent an hour outlining. What's that going to do? What? It could do something. It could put them in a system where there's some overwatch. It could do something, but that's if they go to court on that ticket. That's if they're still here 30 to 60 days later to answer to that ticket. But could criminal court at the city level uniquely be set up to deal with some of this? Maybe. I don't have that answer to that. We don't know, but maybe it could. It's much easier to do there with the sophistication of our city court than it would be to try to run this through district court with felony control and all of that, right? So it's something to think about. Bus stops, panhandling versus ridership. You saw some of our first moves there. We were roundly criticized, but what we faced was a ridership that couldn't ride the bus because of the folks taking over the bus stops and doing things on them, which I won't repeat, but you've heard me use the word a few times today, more than I would normally use any time ever in a week. But those things were all happening and people were being made to feel uncomfortable getting on the bus. So it looked like, why is the city doing this? Well, because we have a bus ridership that has to be protected to ride the bus, just like we have to protect people going to the dentist's office or the hospital. So that outlines where we were. Here's where we are today. And here's what I want to pitch to you guys in it. Some of the best stuff that I've spent a lot of time on, and I'm not telling you I have the answers, and I'm not telling you I got things you guys don't already know and think about. And I'm not even telling you it's not stuff that you'll say, I've been to everybody trying to do this already, but I'm going to just do 2 right now because it's way too hard to do more. We want to push for a single front door model. That's the opposite of what everybody's probably thinking. Single front door doesn't mean you go to one place. Single front door means that any of the helpers who have the ability and training are all an acceptable door. So you can start your help anywhere. And because of the uniform policy that we would now be in, we get you lined up to the right place immediately. It doesn't mean single front door. You can only go see Kitty. You can only go see Ann. You can only go. It means that of the designates that are in the program, cross-training together, whether you show up to him or you guys, you're going to get routed correctly. Right? So this is the nature of single front door that communities who are winning this battle to the extent you can are winning it with. For the same reasons we outlined earlier that you have problems, people who are in this cycle, it's very hard to tell them, here's your card, go here tomorrow, your appointment's at 6, and this is how you have to do it, and present it this way, and genuflect 2 times, and then they let you in. They don't follow that in the first place because of all the challenges we've already said. So single front door doesn't mean what it sounds like. I wish they would change what they call it. It is probably a better, we'll come up with a better thing, but they mean literally that it's a single front door, but you got to be a designated. So you got to play with the other players. We have to be on the same page, bottom line. Same page, everybody. We all agree to the policy. We don't set it. We all set it. But then if you show up to somebody who's in that space together and signed on together, you can enter any front door and you get routed correctly. Does it make sense? So better than calling a single front door, it creates a no wrong door for those participating. Okay. This is one that I've been pushing. I just can't get. It's the by name data tracking that we're going to have to do. We've got HIPAA challenges. There are 1,000 challenges to what we want to talk to you about. And not just, I'm looking at you because you're here. There's other players in this space. United Way wants to be in it. The good thing is there's a bunch of people that want to help us. There are challenges to data tracking, but until we have data tracking where, think about it like this, not everybody can participate at the same level. Some people would wear a card and a lanyard and they would let you know, like you could see that person and know you're helping them means they're also accepting services. I'm much more likely to help or give money. Don't give money, but I'm much more likely to help someone who's receiving service. We also know people are going to throw away their card, lose it, have someone take it because they think they can monetize it, right? All those are challenges. We have to work toward being able to localize and prioritize people. I know Jimmy, this is what we need to do with Jimmy. And you guys do that, but we've got to have, if we're going to have the create no wrong door, we have to have a system where that data is entered, kept private, follow all the rules, but it has access to multiple agencies if they will sign on. So the 2 best practices that creates, the no wrong door and by name data tracking, are shared databases that let outreach workers, mental health professionals, and housing locators collaborate instantly on the same information and client per person. And the other best practice is, out of this, perhaps there should be a single oversight body. We don't have to decide that today, but out of this, there probably could be a governorship of this, a governance model. I don't know that one. It's not as important as getting through the other stuff to try to figure that out. Obviously, that's a 30,000-foot view. We've done a lot more work than that. We're prepared to sit down and share it, and we've got other people who are wanting to do it. But we have not started on this week or because of one event. The one event that happened at the hospital, along with all of the other encampment things we've seen for the last year, and the change in the nature of crimes being committed, lead us to taking a terribly negative situation and trying to make an opportunity of it for us to work better together. Guys, you don't have to have an answer today. Public officials can't give you here it is, it's outlined and it's over it's solved, or every city would have already solved this in America. This is happening everywhere. What we have to do is do the homework to bring the best practice and resource it and figure that out. But it's not a singular problem for government, and it's not a singular problem for the NGOs that are in it. It's going to take the community to do this. And that means some of you will go home and go, I saw all that stuff the mayor said. He's full of it. What we need to do is arrest all those people and put them away. And I hope everybody in the room says, oh, really? That's the solution? Because even if you believed that, which I don't think really everybody does, because if it were their family member, they wouldn't believe it. But even if you did, it won't resolve it because there's no space to do that. You cannot arrest your way out of it. So if I can't convince you that morally that's not the way to do it, I can tell you financially, it can't be done anyway. So forget that. It's not a solution. We have to figure out the solutions. But guys, there's a criminal element we've outlined to you today. And you're going to see us do things to interdict and intervene in the criminal elements. And we're going to have to be given some leeway to do that, and understanding from the NGO partners and others who normally would lean on those. You can't do that. That person is this, we've got to identify and help figure out that together. And the only way to do that is with shared information. That's my thesis point. That's what I'm trying to show you. You can do that better if we have shared data. Chief, I know y'all arrested Jimmy yesterday. You don't understand. Here's what we know. This is what's really going on. That's a mental health crisis. That's a this. That's how you do that. Shared information is how we're going to do it. Look, I've never been a big brother guy. These guys who are older on the council have heard me rail against it for years. We're not in that world anymore. The technology that can hurt us is what we have to use to help us too. And so we're going to have to do that. All right. A lot more detail on that in these policies. They're raw, but as far as for the single front door and the other ones, it's way more developed than what I just said. And we're going to convene some meetings on that, and I'm even willing. I know you've got an appointment soon, but if you guys hang around a minute, we'll go upstairs and we'll start and talk about who needs to be in that room and where we're going to go. Okay. All right. Yes.
How can we keep people from dropping them off, putting them on buses coming here? I know y'all mentioned that.
Well,
I know y'all know probably where they're coming from, hospitals.
So there has been some interdiction of that by even at the chamber level. There has been a catch of one particular city who's not in the state of Louisiana that had targeted Alexandria as their sister city for this, not exactly the kind of sister city relationship you want. And they were contacted by our chamber leadership and said, stop, I know you're doing it. Here's how I know you're doing it. There are other ways we know. For example, when I witnessed it out of my window one day and saw it happen, personally, me and the chief and the commissioner were in my office with me. And I said, go downstairs and find out who that is. And so we know for sure. And y'all would be shocked to know that even locally, there's a lot of churches outside of Alexandria. There's a lot to this. It is not pretty. It is not pretty. And so we do have some of that. Your question was simple. What do we do about it? So if we out people in here, that won't help. That's going to hurt feelings and get you in a different kind of fight. It's hard enough to tread through this like we're doing today. But we're going to have some honest conversations with leaders of different groups that we know are doing it and tell them, look, if you keep doing this, we may have to out it. And why are you doing this? Like, how is this helping anything? And I think what most people say is, I don't want it in my backyard.
I want to kind of expand on that a little bit. I did have some conversation with Ms. Wynn, and just this morning with our partners at Rapides Regional Medical Center about providing transportation back to their homes once they are either released from DOC or released from treatment, whether it be medically clear, or substance abuse or mental health. And so I learned this morning that just Rapides Regional has been providing transportation back to different communities for these people. And we're grateful for that. That's a partnership that I think we can do. Ms. Wynn,
That's not grant money. That's their money.
That's their money. Ms. Wynn and I talked this week. And we have a division of community services at the city. The mayor can talk about that a little bit, that is also working on a plan to work with the Homeless Coalition to identify these individuals that want to go back and who need transportation back to get them back. So
Look,
that's a step, that's surely
Yeah.
a step in the right direction
Yeah.
from where we were.
there are permissible grants. I gotta confess, seems like a violation of the constitutional right of travel to me, which is what's called a fundamental right, which gets strict scrutiny on a bunch of lawyer boring stuff. But apparently there are grants that allow cities to send people back home as long as there's a receiver somewhere to, bring that person back into where they are. So some of this probably started somewhere good, and then cities just decided, we're going to put you on a bus and send you out of our community. We don't care where you go, because that is happening to us. Right, Chief? That's happening. I'm talking to other chiefs. But we're not, but there's also grants that can do that for us the right way that we have to think about doing. I know you talked.
Yeah,
to those guys
absolutely.
about it.
And again, Rapides General, Rapides Regional Medical Center, again, a partner trying to help solve the problem, be part of the solution, not part of the problem. And I think that's important that they are providing those resources. $20,000 a month, that's a lot of money to provide for that. Visited with them this morning at 7:00 this morning. I was down there talking to them about this.
So I've got a super negative controversial one I didn't want to bring up today. But I'm worried not to bring it up today. And now that I've said that, y'all are going to demand that I bring it up, or it's not transparent, right? There is another thing that happens, and it is complicated too. But I know there's some people in this room who are going to vouch that I'm telling you 100% something we know to be a fact. And that is this thing called the Florida Shuffle, what is called patient brokering. Thank you for the nod. I know it's happening. And I know we're receiving more than our fair share of people that come from way outside of even Louisiana. And they're brought here to receive services. And I'm not going to make a judgment about need, whatever. I'm going to tell you that there's not a lot you can do unless certain criminal fraud things happen, but you can receive a whole lot of people in your community for rehab, rehabilitation, other types of services. And when the money runs out or the right to walk out comes up, which is real quick, they're turned out that day where? In your community. And that's it. And then they're just now here. So enticed here, that's not a plan. And that's a real thing. Y'all can go Google it and look at it on AI, figure out all you want about it. But again, if we're getting our unfair share of these other things, and I tell you that that's a big one too, that's a problem. Now, the reason you say, well, why do you want to just say that? Because there's going to be people who own or do things here. They're going to immediately go on Facebook and attack and say the mayor doesn't know what he's talking about. We're providing services to people. This is important. No one's questioning that at all. But I also know from arrests or police interactions we make what we're told. I'm from such and such. I came here because of such and such, and I got turned out today, and here I am. And they're not being talked to because they were just run into on the street by the cop at Why Not. He was saying, what's up? It's there's something that happened that led to that interaction. Okay.
I'll say that I've personally interviewed some of these individuals who have told us exactly what Mayor Roy is talking about. And they're not from here and they want to go home.
And so, if somebody, look, there's ways to do it. I'm going to let y'all go. You can go Google it and you'll figure out how easily it can be done. If you're like, well, how could they afford to do it? Go. It'll come right up. Patient brokering, Florida Shuffle. Look at it. I don't have names. I'm not naming. That's not what's important today. But if the city if we are interdicted, if you will, for saying it, we're going to push back and we're going to have to show what there is it's going. And that's not a threat. It's just, that's what it looks like. If you're we're not attacking people who provide help to people. We're saying if the model is about making money to bring other people in and create a bigger issue for our community to then figure out the resources after you're not cured and after you still have the same problems the day you're turned out, that isn't a model that's working. That's not just local, that's nationally. That's a failure. That's just shifting stuff around and not ever solving a problem. We don't want to do that. So we're not engaging back on that. We get a lot of pressure too, don't we?
Yes, sir.
Put people on, we hear all of that. Put them on, do that. We get a lot of pressure for that, quite frankly. All right, I'm shifting gears and going into some stuff for Ms. Corley on recreation. We're not going to end this discussion on unhoused and homelessness today. We're going to come back and have another one of these. I hope it'll be this well attended, and maybe you'll bring some other people in, and I hope we'll have some other meeting. It doesn't have to be in a briefing. This was just to get the convo started. This doesn't even need to be in a briefing. This frankly needs to be in a different setting. But we probably have some internal governance work to do to figure out how to get a working group together, right? Who the players are. I have some folks I definitely want in it. I definitely want Ann from class in it. She ain't gonna always tell you what you want to hear, as we all know, but you need people who are not, who do that, who challenge you. We had an hour-long talk yesterday. It was a challenging talk. And we'll be straight up and tell you, I made some deals. You're gonna have to let the chief do some of, because she was gonna get critical, I think, but she understands where we are now, and I think she's all in. But there's going to have to be some horse trading on this, guys. We've got to figure some things out. We've got to clean up certain things, but we need to have a mitigation plan ready to go. And so we've been working on that. But some things that are strictly public safety, they got a job to do. And both Ann said it, and I know y'all would agree. If someone's committing a violent crime, that checkbox is different. That's a defense issue for you later, but that ain't going to be something we can do right up front the same way. We're going to have to handle that through public safety. All right, so I'm going to switch gears. I want to thank y'all for being here. I hope you guys will stay a minute and we'll go upstairs and talk. And if there are community people who were just interested, you're more than welcome to come sit in and listen. And I'll unpack a little bit more of this for you, and we'll start figuring out some better things to do. For those who say, well, why didn't y'all do this before? Well, people have been doing it before. And a bunch of models that worked 10 years ago don't work today. And a bunch that worked 5 years ago don't work today. And a bunch of stuff post-COVID just does not work. COVID changed everything about the way people interact. The social skill level of even the addict or the person seeking help is so different now. I know y'all see it every day on social media. What people are willing to say when they walk in a restaurant to somebody, or jump over a counter and hit the person giving them fast. It's just different. And we've got to deal through all that. And it makes it much harder. It also makes it dangerous for all of you who want to volunteer in it. I know some of you go in these encampments and you go home and feel good and go, these guys are great. They wouldn't hurt a fly. Maybe that moment they would, but that can change. That can change. And we've talked a little bit about that. All right. So switching gears, I'm going to go through for the council. I hope that y'all have looked at the site and you see the reignite, all the parks and what you visually see it, but let me give you some more concrete detail. Helen Black Park. Tanya, you want to call out I don't know if you have by district. Helen Black is one. District 1, additional concrete extended for extended seating around the pavilion on the passive side of the park. New playground equipment has been installed. The pour and play surfacing installed under the playground equipment. New asphalt overlay on a basketball court. So that's non-passive, that's active park. Remember, passive parks are walking trails, just enjoying the greenery. Active park is there's some athletic or other thing you can do there. What is Compton Park? Somewhere in the middle. But it would have traditionally been called a passive or neighborhood or pocket park. Active park would be Franco Hunter's an active park. It has a stadium, it has a gym, it has a, right? All right, things to do left in July: resurface paint, basketball court, add benches and seating on both sides, install basketball goals, install three-point shade, repair and replace the fencing on the active side of the park, and then landscaping is coming in the fall. Cheatham, new playground equipment and the pour in place has been installed. We have to install some benches and we're waiting on delivery. That's its part in Reignite now, but Cheatham is the recipient of much more stuff to come as a location that the city has with 3 schools and all that can help reach. So we'll have more on Cheatham later. Franco Hunter, a lot of dirt work's been done, concrete work complete, beginning to erect playground equipment now. The to-do is to install the, I'm assuming PIP every time is poured in place, right? After the playground equipment is in place. So imagine you're setting all this down, it's all set up and they pour the concrete in there and it seals everything. So Cheatham and Franco Hunter, of course, are in District 3. Helen Black was in District 1. Deborah Bowman. Is it 2 or 1? It's right on the 2. Final answer. Working currently to ready the site for playground equipment, concrete work, walking trail, fencing. The things left to do: resurface basketball court, install the play equipment. That delivery is expected in August. Install the pour in place. Charles Smith, District 3, currently working a ready site for playground equipment, dirt work, and concrete work. The to-do is to install the play equipment. That's in mid-July, so that's coming right up, and install the pour in place. City Park. Begin the work after summer. That one, as you know, they got ready to do it quicker than we thought, and we've stopped them because it is an active park with the splash pad. We can't have the splash pad not going, even though we did redo some surfacing stuff, but we want to do a full redo, and we don't want to do that in the summer. Resurface splash pad, replace controller equipment, add some additional play equipment, install the pour in place. And then Masonic Sports Court, y'all can go look, it's almost complete. Fencing is next week, install basketball goals, install nets. I will tell you that all of this, especially the more active the park, the more security the park, and the more things are going to be in place. We can't build these things and invite you and your families and your children to go without making them safe. And that rather circuitously brings me all the way back to my point about some homelessness, where that quality of crime is increased, and we have to be very mindful of that. And Masonic Sports Court is next to there's a whole lot of things that are going to come into play in that corridor that are going to be positive for our community. Ms. Corley, thank you for the work on that for Reignite to make that all pop and come up. Most of all these parks that are being redone that were not looked at for quite a few years, they were all done during Spark. I mean, most of those are Spark parks that we've now come back in and Reignite to do the routine work that needs to be done. Should be done every year. I also appreciate all the festivals and everything that have been going well, and I'm looking forward to 4th of July. I understand you may have some surprises for us in the community on that day, other than just fireworks. So we'll stand by and look forward to that. We had our Reignite meeting 1, or our big charrette number 1. That was at the mall. For the sake of time, it being now 12:30, because we went on the unhoused and homelessness issues for a while. I'll come back on some of that, but it went well. We had, they listed over 250 attendees. I wouldn't have put the number as high as that. I was there most of the time, but it was pretty well attended. I don't know if they were counting the surveys, but I know there were at least 150 surveys done, but I counted, just when I was there, well over 100 people in attendance. They have a list. The folks that put it on was CSRS out of Baton Rouge. They're now a national company. The quality of what was said and the comments and including the survey it was really well attended in that sense. We have a lot of information from it. Very supportive of the corridor work. I will tell y'all, none of this was push-pull work. None of this was here's what you need to conclude. This was all just raw. They could go look, they can look at the whole corridor and say what they think. And it corresponded exactly to what the evidence-based side that we independently had a firm look at. So the community matched the evidence. It wasn't like they were far off. Everything was a match. And what people want and what they're concerned about was a match. And there's support for that corridor, and we're gonna keep pushing why that makes sense, Dr. Lewis, and I know you know that. That was started as a corridor that linked all the other SPARK projects, very much by Cliff Muller and others. And if you just think about where it is in the city, where Masonic is and how that works, it has to make sense. We have a responsibility to keep it safe and secure. I understand in election season, everything can be newly criticized, whether you were for it yesterday or not. And we welcome that debate in public. I'll be happy to support the evidence basis for why the Masonic corridor makes sense and is critical, and how long it has made sense and been critical. So with Reignite, I'll give y'all, we'll just publish that report instead of me going over it all with you today. But you know, the things that we're doing right there, people like those assets there. They want to see them all increase. They want to feel safe. There was a desire for even more increased walkability, which supports the traffic softening of Masonic. With all good things like that comes the negative of people who want Masonic to be through traffic and remain quick and fast. I think the hospital is neutral about, they benefit from it either way. As y'all know, the hospital put in a bunch of softening devices right in front of Cabrini anyway, so that all changed anyway. The idea still is that if we increase the infrastructure around it and surrounding the mall with the public side of the infrastructure, including the Children's Museum and Learning Center at a hyper scale, meaning knock or better in Baton Rouge, then we create an anchor and perhaps one other tech anchor there, not a data center. Too small. But one other technology-driven anchor there that would force the mall to really reinvest and rethink what they're doing. We know they're on board, remain on board, and there are just some tremendous opportunities there. I get asked a lot of questions about we put out an FAQ. You can go to the city's website, www.cityofalexandrialaw.com. If you go to the city's web, I think the city of Alexandria, Virginia beat us. I think we had to have the law a long time. But if you go to the website and click on the transparency or policy tab, you'll see all the stuff that my office puts out. One of them is this FAQ. You can print it yourself. You can download it, send it to anybody, do what you want. We get asked a lot of things. The questions it answers are 8. What is Reignite and why now? Number 2, where does the money come from? Number 3, why not just spend it on more police? Let me address that one easily for you now. You can't spend capital dollars designated by vote of the Alexandria people for capital purposes. Capital purposes are your streets, things that are infrastructure in nature or capital. You can't spend capital dollars that the city of Alexandria voted for their parks, recreation, roads, drainage on salaries. It's illegal. That's why you can't take that same amount of money and just give it to the police. Because if you did that, there'd always be an argument only for salaries and you'd never be able to build the capital structures you need. Why not then spend all the capital money on drainage? Why not spend it on something else? If you were to spend all your capital dollars on one thing and you don't increase the tax base through quality of life initiatives like Reignite is, guess what you start missing to pay for the next capital office? Sales tax. And the sales taxes are generated by quality of life assets. So that's why there's always going to be a mix of risking and thinking and reducing risk by having a plan like a corridor plan, which is common in cities to have. You have to have the evidence base, reduce the risk, make sure it's the smart corridor doing it, make sure it has a return on investment. If it does, that generates new property tax and sales tax that allows you to spend it on drainage and other things. Uniquely about this corridor is right behind it is one of the largest diversion bodies in the city. And because there's a federally qualified diversion body behind it, the feds will match our money dollar for dollar sometimes or more, 80-20 their way, when we do infrastructure that's close to and includes a diversion body. So super smart to do it there from that standpoint. Why the mall? Aren't malls just dying? That's number 5. Yeah, they are. Retail malls are dying all over the country, and the smart ones that are transitioning their malls are turning them into experience-driven places that have a lot more than just retail. And the places that are saving them do that. And someone says, well, I get all kinds of comments. Why don't y'all, or why don't they, is usually just tear it down. Who's they? The city doesn't own the mall. The city doesn't have a right to go tear down a restaurant. The city doesn't choose what restaurants can open or close here. They don't choose the mall either. And why would you tear it down if you were the mall ownership? Then we just have that whole big space that someone, if they wanted to build a huge rec center, which is what our citizens really want, a place to go do things recreationally, you just have to rebuild it. And it's already built there. There's nothing wrong with the shape of the mall. What's wrong is what's in the mall has changed with what we do. We shop on Amazon. We shop by ordering things. An experience-driven mall does a whole lot of different things. So that's the why the mall, why now. The other why now is, well, why are you doing it today? Why didn't you do it yesterday or 4 years ago? Because the mall ownership didn't want to do it 4 years ago. They were still planning to still make a run at what they were doing. They are willing now. It isn't for a lack of trying. I've been talking to them for years about it. They're all in now. That's why. Where does the money come from? It comes from the roll off of the Spark bond. Spark bond was $45 million. It's going to finish with everything complete. We could go use that portion if the council so approves, and you'd be paying the same note for the car, getting the new car with no money down. So the roll off, because of where our bonding capacity is, just extends that for a new project, the legacy to Spark, to start a new big project, and your note doesn't change. No new taxes. And we even designed it without your ability to renew existing capital taxes. Let me stress on that. In today's time, unlike in times past, a renewal would pass automatically because it's the renewal of an existing tax. Those days are over, ladies and gentlemen. People don't want to renew or pass anything. So Reignite is designed to reignite and give a case for either the passage of that or it works without it. But believe me, you're going to have something to increase sales tax and property tax. If people should not renew that. That's half your capital tax. It doesn't require that to work. So what if we don't act? Like some people say, well, just do nothing. Well, so the cost of doing nothing is a cost. Opportunity cost doesn't work that way. The cost of doing nothing has a consequence. And one of those consequences could be the closure of that property. Now, I would like y'all to imagine a closed mall and the blight and the homeless and unhoused and criminal and public safety and public health opportunities that are created by that property closed. So without action, you get a vacant mall property, blight and spillover effects, lost federal match dollars, and a shrinking tax base. With Reignite, citywide drainage benefits increase. With federal dollars coming in to match, we get a reimagined town center. We get more walkability, which the people just said they wanted in the numbers and the surveys, and we get a growing tax base. This one's not terribly difficult to imagine as a need, and it's not terribly difficult to imagine that repurposing the mall is a smarter choice than tearing it down or trying to figure out another place to do something when it's that size, connected to a corridor with recreation, public space, and a healthcare system that's thriving and building new places right now where we have a competitive advantage economically. So that's the basis for it. We'll keep talking about it. Community meeting number 1 went great. We are gathering now our official endorsements of support. We have quite a few resolutions that will come to the council of support. I go around and do the presentations on it. And if you say, well, why not us first? Because I think that I should bring to you the community support first. And that's the way
we'll do that. I appreciate y'all's time on a Friday. And I'd like to have a little time with some folks who are interested in the homelessness and unhoused stuff for a minute. We'll have another briefing on that after we talk, or we'll have a different type of community meeting about it, whatever you guys want to do. Dr. Lewis, you have anything you want to add?
So just encourage the council to keep behind reignite.
All right, council members, questions on reignite or the parks was on the agenda, so your questions. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate all of your time. Have a good weekend.